So welcome to another episode of the Little Marketing Podcast, where we provide you, Australian small business owners, with smart and tangible marketing advice for your small business. Now, if you're a dog lover or dog owner, you're going to love this episode. Today's guest is Racheal Romeo. She's the director of Riverina K9 in the beautiful New South Wales Riverina area. Her business basically helps dogs and their owners with dog training, behavioural change, and a whole lot more. And I'll let Racheal give a bit more of an intro about what they do. So Racheal's been running the business for 10 years, so you can imagine she's learned so much about business. So today she's going to share some info around the vast array of marketing that her business does, the wins and learnings that she's had over that time, and just generally how she manages the business and her family in her busy schedule. So before we kick off, just a bit of an intro if you're a first-time listener. So Little Marketing is a marketing consultancy specifically built for small businesses, providing marketing plans and advice to busy small business owners. And you can imagine in that time we've learned so much about business owners around their mindset, what works and what doesn't. So these podcasts are really in line with the Little Marketing vision of helping business owners achieve the best possible results for their organization. So let's get into today's episode. Racheal, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. How's the beautiful Riverina area?
Yeah, quite frosty this morning. We've had a few fogs this week. But you know, that's winter for you out here.
Yeah, beautiful. It's a bit fresh in Sydney as well this morning, but I love it.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a winter person myself, so I can't complain.
There you go. So maybe by way of introduction, maybe tell everyone a bit about Riverina K9, what you do and who you do it for.
Yeah, okay. So Riverina K9 service is a bit like one of my little babies that I have grown over the last 8 years. Definitely a small business that's just myself. I sort of assist people in more of a holistic way with their dogs in terms of training, behavioural consultation, nutrition consultation, and general myotherapy, massage, physical rehabilitation as well. So yeah, I wear a few different hats inside of the business, but it allows me to really be able to support people sort of in multiple ways, support people and their pets, in multiple ways. And yeah, really assist them in an efficient way, always with the animals' best interests at heart.
Yeah, okay. So I used to have a family dog, so it was a Jack Russell Shih Tzu, cutest thing ever. Jack Russell, so much energy, almost too much energy sometimes. But I think for me, I'd love dogs with energy and vibe and that type of thing. So tell me, how would you? So from a practical perspective, so if I brought my dog to you, how would you be able to help me, and how would you help the dog?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I mean, it really depends on the issues at hand or what you'd like to your goals with your dog. I really don't like to focus too much on the frustrations. It's more like, what are we trying to get to? What's the target? What's the goal? What would you like to do with your dog? So really taking a positive outlook on moving forward and progressing is something that I really focus on with clients, because, it's sad to say a lot of the time people come to me with a lot of frustrations and not a great mindset sometimes. They're having issues with their pet, and we're all really emotionally attached to our pets, of course. So really turning that frown upside down is something that I focus on a lot, because I really need to establish a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach with the humans as well as the dogs. I really it's a case-by-case basis. It's really broad what I do. So it can range from puppy raising all the way up to working with a senior or geriatric pet in terms of keeping their mobility really great, helping them with their nutrition. So yeah, across the board, I would have to say every case is really, really different. A lot of what I do is based around training in general obedience. So working with dogs, establishing great manners and good foundations, and establishing really great channels of communication with their guardians. So they're on the same page, and they're able to communicate really clearly with each other. And once we kind of establish some really great foundations, the sky's the limit sort of with all dogs. They kind of all have unlimited potential, I kind of say. So yeah, part of what I do is really nurturing that relationship to grow between the guardian and the dog. And from there, basically, it's all up. Once we get that kind of there and they're able to really work together as a team, there's so much that can be achieved. So yeah, in a nutshell.
It's funny when you said the guardian bit, because my perception would be that most people would be oblivious to the fact that they potentially are the speed bump. I was going to say the issue, the speed bump in the scenario, but it's probably a mix of both, right?
Yeah, that's really a really great comment. It's something that's quite like overlooked is the human side of the scenario, especially when we're working around behavioral modification and things of that nature. So but obviously, that comes back into teaching dogs, upskilling dogs as well. Where clients might feel they're quite limited in terms of their education or their knowledge. So yeah, it's really important that the human has a central role in the training, and a lot of the training and consultation I do is really centered towards the human, to be able to communicate and teach their dog. And so, yeah, it's really important. A lot of the work I do is with the humans and then translated through the humans to the dog. I sort of think that that's the best approach to take in terms of everyone learning, improving the human skill set, and, just for sustainable training into the future, that works best. Although I am there to support people, I do work face-to-face with clients as well. So.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So tell me, what is your busy day-to-day look like?
My day-to-day can be quite diverse, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I work mobile, so I can go to clients' houses, depending on their needs, of course, whether that's training or, other varied consultation. I do teleconsults with people, and I also do virtual consultation as well. So yeah.
How does the virtual stuff work with the dogs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's something that a lot of people are a bit scared of, actually. And, post-COVID, it's sort of something that's come about. A lot of consultation will happen virtually. It's something that, I have to work with each client, what they're comfortable with, of course. Some people are just happy chatting, like we do, I guess. But some people are actually quite happy to train in front of the camera. And this might include actually taking recordings of yourself and sending them to me, or actually setting up a training scenario in front of their camera and doing it live with me and working through skills, working through behaviours, whatever it might be. So it can be quite varied what we can do virtually. And I've found that I've been slowly kind of creating changes in what I do just so I can better help people and have services. It's been great to have a service available so I can speak to people at a distance and work with people, that are quite far away from me. So that's something that's always I'm trying to strengthen as well, because it can be such a strength inside of a business. I feel.
That's so interesting. I remember like pre-COVID, we as a business and a business model, like our consultants, the goal is to always be physically in front of the client, right? Because we feel like that's the best way to communicate how we're trying to help them, to best build relationships, all those things. Then COVID happened. We didn't have a choice. It had to all be virtual. So you, as you said, you refine your process based on doing it virtually because you and the client don't have a choice during COVID. And then you come out of the other side and it's like this, we've refined this so well, it can work. And it saves you time, it saves the client time, the travel, the parking, all those things that used to happen. And now you can probably see more clients now, I'm guessing. And it just makes more efficiency. So it's interesting, and it's good to hear that you're saying that you're constantly evolving that as well, because you're learning each and every time that there's some type of interaction. So on that, let's talk pain points. What's the biggest pain point that you think you have, or maybe a couple in your business?
Really good question. So I guess and this is probably consistent with a lot of other small business owners, it's just really having the time to cover all bases. I struggle sometimes wearing so many different hats inside of my business, that, yeah, having time at the end of the day to do all the marketing, for example, or, you know, getting back in touch with clients and all the callbacks, reports and assessments that I do, all my admin, yeah, it can get quite thin, the time I have to actually allocate to everything else outside of training. And also, yeah, so just being a bit time poor, I really like, you know, conducting my own research and, you know, my continued education, and that can get hard too. So being a one-man band, yeah, I guess the biggest pain point for me is always feeling like I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I'd like to allocate more time to things and be more of a perfectionist. But that's just me, probably, as an individual.
Yeah, for sure. And it's letting go, right? Sometimes,
Mm,
you know, most business owners are great at the technical, and so because of
yeah.
that, they always think that no one can do it as good as me, right? Um, but sometimes the reality is, if someone else can do it at 80% or 90% of what you can do it, or
Yeah.
if you want to scale the business, it needs to kind of be at that point. So yeah,
Mm,
that's always the toughest part, I think, for
yes.
technical business owners.
Yes.
Um, on that point, what do you, outside of COVID, in the last 10 years they've been running the business, what do you
Hmm.
see as the biggest change in running a business has been in that time?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were just speaking about in terms of virtual communication, and virtual services. That's been a massive change, like inside of the industry I work in terms of consultation. But I also think there's been a massive change, just in terms of what dog trainers, on their own, kind of providing more online programs as such,
Okay.
more of an online offering. Yeah, that's been the biggest change. I mean, it was, you know, pre-COVID, there's many people that did it, obviously, but now you'll see so many different service providers doing it. Yeah, I feel like that's been the biggest shift. Everyone's kind of got to have that online learning kind of platform going,
Yep.
and yeah, kind of have that available for people.
And have you started to implement that within your business?
Yeah, so around, I would say 2 years ago, I started that process. Just after I gave birth to my second daughter, I decided I was going to leap into the world of constructing some, well, turning all the knowledge inside my head and what I did day to day with people into some actual programs that
Yep.
people, and creating this kind of interface for my clients and my students. And that's been extremely beneficial for my business and me, in terms of just myself collecting my thoughts and the way I do things. And yeah, so, you know, in dog training, there's not just one way to do things, there's many different ways to do a single thing or achieve a certain goal. So yeah, it's been really great for me to clarify my practice. And you know, there's a lot of art form that goes into dog training, I will have to say. So
Yep.
yeah, it's been really interesting to sit back and look at my process, and, like I said, collect my thoughts. And yeah, so I have done that, and that's kind of working really well for me.
Yeah, awesome. So people can jump on, sign up to a course or
Yeah.
lectures or structures, and
Yeah.
do an online course.
Yeah, so I've got a few different courses, and I guess that I've platformed them around what people most need and what they
Okay.
most come to me for, in terms of obedience. So I've got some larger courses and some mini courses. Yeah, so it's been really cool to kind of experiment inside of what works for people, and really kind of sit down and change things accordingly with a bit of feedback. But yeah, it's just been really beneficial, I think, in terms of being able to set things at a budget friendly kind of price for people. People can do it from their home. They can do it wherever they are, from whatever
Yep.
device,
Yep.
and just have access to all those dog training secrets that everyone kind of wants, at
Yeah.
the click of a button. So yeah,
And I can
it's
imagine
been
you've
great.
got so much of it up here that you've now put out, you know, into those courses, which is so good.
Yeah, it's been really great, and I'd recommend a lot of people do it, even if not for their business, just to collect their thoughts sometimes.
Yeah, as in other business owners should set up some online courses for their own business, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. It's been a
nice.
great exercise, like I said, just on its own for myself.
Yeah, nice. Very good. So one of the reasons we do these podcasts is so that business owners don't feel like they're alone. And so they get to hear stories from other business owners or experts in their field. So, and at the moment in the marketplace, you know, if you watch the news, and I don't watch the news, but there's lots of negative talk around the market and people not spending or whatever. So we try to keep things very positive. So what do you think, like, how are you behaving in this current environment to keep that positivity happening?
That's a really good question. Okay, so I guess, yeah, like being a small business can be super isolating, and it's something I've, much like everybody else, I kind of struggle with in my own way, especially given my location too. Like I'm quite located in a rural area. So yeah, and I guess like it's a bit of a niche business what I do too. So yeah, it's kind of quite different from many different viewpoints. But I kind of like try, and I guess I feel like there's a lot of strength in always continuing to do your own research and upskilling, and continuing your own professional development, attending as many seminars and things that you can do. And at the moment, there's so much online stuff. The market's kind of flooded with what you can do in terms of seminars and all that sort of thing. But actually, still getting out there in person and speaking to people, networking, just making contact with other professionals, and yeah, just finding a bit of maybe strength in that. It's been, yeah, kind of how I've dealt with, and obviously leading a healthy lifestyle kind of helps as well, maybe in
Yep,
terms of your mindset. But
absolutely.
yeah, setting realistic goals is something that I've had to really focus on, because I'm the type of person that takes on 50 different kind of projects at once. So yeah, really kind of refining my processes and how I do things, and just in goal setting, has been, yeah, because like you mentioned, the climate's changed, and yeah, it's been tough, like I won't lie, the last few years. So yeah, kind of a few different little things in my toolkit that I kind of rely on, and obviously I think it's also really important to state that it's okay to feel down sometimes. It's okay to feel frustrated. That's absolutely normal. But it's more sometimes how you pick yourself up and keep rolling on with what you're doing, and really ask yourself, like, what am I trying to achieve? Why am I doing this? And do I need to change up what I'm doing?
Yep.
Yeah. So really asking yourself questions as you go, yeah, I think is important, and making sure that you're achieving what you really want to achieve, not what trying to compete with other people and things like that. So
I think it's so easy for business owners to be distracted by what their friends doing or what
yes.
their mates doing or what the neighbors doing in terms of marketing or
Hmm.
you know, keeping up with the Joneses from a business perspective, right? Like you've got
Yep.
to
Yep.
focus on doing what's going to achieve your goals in your business.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
just doing something because someone else is doing it. Is it achieving your
Yep.
goals? And you said
Yes.
goals just then before, so I'll put you on the spot here. So when you set
Hmm.
goals, do you also
Hmm.
put a plan in place to get there? Because I hear people talk about setting goals all the time, and that's easy. You know, I want to lose 10
Yes.
kilos. I don't, but I want to
Yes.
lose 10 kilos is the goal. But what's the plan I'm putting in place to actually get there?
Yeah, that's
And I
that's
think that's
that's
the
right.
hardest. I think that's the hardest bit. Setting goals is easy. Putting the plan in place
Hmm.
and sticking to that plan is the hardest bit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that I kind of promote inside of with my clients too, especially inside of training dogs, is that we use that kind of the SMART goal kind of acronym, and yeah, try and be really realistic to the time we want to put in, map it out the best we can, and depending, like obviously it's on a case by case basis, but with each individual, and every human's different, dog's different, and everyone's lifestyle is different, and the environment may all be different. So there's a few different factors, but yeah, I think you have to measure your goals, and whilst nothing completely ever goes to plan,
Mm,
obviously that's life. um I think it's good to have a bit of a strategy to follow. And yeah, I'm the type of person, I'm a list maker, and yeah, I I think quite strategically when I'm set my mind to something. So I like to learn as I go too. And I realize that not everything kind of goes to plan sometimes. And sometimes you make goals and you learn along the way that you end up in a totally different place from
Yep.
going after that goal too, which is absolutely fine. Because yeah, things change as you go on your journey in small business. So you've got to embrace, sometimes doors close, but others open too. So you've got to roll with the punches sometimes.
So good. That's so good. So let's talk marketing. So tell me what marketing you've done as a business over the last kind of 10 years.
Yeah, so I've kind of experimented a lot, as we've discussed.
Love it. And I
Um,
think this is good because, you know, business owners want to hear, well, what's everyone else doing? And it's kind of
yeah,
about what we were
yeah,
saying before around keeping up with the Joneses, but it's about doing stuff that they're comfortable with and doing stuff that's going to benefit their business and their goals and their audience and their point of
yeah,
difference. So,
yeah.
but tell us what you've done.
So like I said, I've experimented quite a lot because, yeah, like I'm not a professional marketer, probably much like many of your clients. Obviously, that's why they come to you too. But yeah, I've kind of like tried a few different things just to see what kind of works and what works for my target audience. And yeah, so I mean, I've done a lot of stuff on social media. I guess I put a lot of content out there in terms of helping people, empowering people, and maybe educating people. So creating a bit of a social media following where I can just put things out there for people to absorb,
Yep.
and make people obviously aware of, you know, the services I offer and things like that. I built my own website, so that's been another thing that I've kind of continually evolved over the last few years, which was a great experience to do. And continues to be.
Websites never end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's you know, in this day and age with SEO and all these funky things, I'm still learning, you know. So yeah, inside of my website I have a blog too, so that's something I've been working on and will continue to work on as well. And that gives me a great platform to continue to educate people as well about the things that I feel are relevant.
Yep.
Inside of like the areas I work in. Yeah, so I've done a little bit of radio as well.
Yeah, wow.
I've done some active campaign stuff. So I've got a bit of a mailing list. So that's been quite interesting to work with.
So that's
Because you get a lot of
that's
feedback.
emails. That's emails. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you can really gauge inside of those type of platforms, and active campaigns obviously just one of many.
Yep.
You can really gauge your audience and get a lot of insights into them and their
Okay.
behaviors.
Yeah,
I
very
feel
good.
like you're snooping on them a little bit
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Who's opening up my
Yes, so
emails?
yeah, and at what time and all
Yeah.
this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's, and I've also, I guess, just touching on that point, it's allowed me to analyze my own behavior as a consumer too, which I think is really valid. Something I never actually thought about until I kind of worked on that platform. Yeah, so you're kind of subscribing to things all the time, and you know, looking at people's websites, and yeah, so really analyzing, okay, so how do I absorb information, what appeals to me, and applying that to, you know, the information that I'm putting out there for people too. So I've done a lot of I've gained a lot of reviews and testimonials, I guess, over the years. So yeah, that's something I try and promote a little bit.
Yep.
In terms of on social media. And yeah, I mean, I'm on a few different business directories. I have a few different professional memberships that I upkeep every year, given
Yep.
the different modalities I work in. So yeah, I mean, I'm on Google. I've got a Google listing as well. So yeah, I've done a few different, I may not even be touching on all of them, but yeah, I've kind of, like I said, experimented a bit,
Yep.
which has been interesting.
I was making some notes there as you went, and there's a couple of things that I took out of the list that you spoke about. So one of them that the theme that I got out of it was that a lot of what you do from a marketing perspective is educating. So educating your audience around not necessarily just what you do and how you help them, but actually just educating them so they could, try and do it themselves if they want to. But there's so much information that you're giving them. You're showing and positioning yourself and your business and your brand as an expert in what you do. So that positioning part is key. So clearly that's done intentionally. The credibility bit. So again, by educating, you're showing credibility around what you do, and again, positioning yourself as a leader and an expert in what you do. And that's one of the biggest things that we talk about with our clients is how are you, and we'll talk about this in a second, but how are you or how are business owners positioning themselves in the minds of their customers and clients that is different to the competition. And that's the key in marketing. We rave on about that all the time in these podcasts, but that's marketing 101. Marketing is about battle of the mind, and about owning that peace in the mind in your customers and clients' mind where there's the least amount of competition. And it clearly you understand that and you're really driving that forward. And then the third thing I took out of what you were talking about was the frequency. So it sounds like you're doing quite a bit of it and quite regularly. And that's the other thing around, so you can have that positioning, but you need to constantly be ramming it home and reminding people and being top of mind. And we say this to clients all the time, that a consumer might not need your business today, tomorrow, or next week. But when the time comes, if you've been communicating clearly and consistently in why you're different and consistently in a frequency perspective, more than your competitors, then chances are you've got a higher chance of success.
Yeah, definitely.
And it sounds like you understand that, and you're trying to nail those three key elements. So education, credibility, and the frequency of our activity, and also consistency in why you're different as well. So I think that's really, really good.
I think that it's really important to really emphasize what sets you apart from the crowd in terms of when we're speaking in any profession. And I'll probably just add, like, I wrote a book in the last 12 months. So I found that, I found that obviously there's marketing channels you go through to promote that, but I found that was a great marketing tool as well, in terms of building my brand and my credibility. That's been a great experience. So again, just putting information out there in a different way that's really budget friendly, easy for people to access, and I can reach more people as well. So didn't do it purely from a marketing perspective, but that's not what drove
while
the
we've
project.
got you, give the plug. What's the name of the book?
So Toilet Train Your Dog, very, very simple, written by Racheal Romeo. So if you Google that, it's available from all different retailers, in ebook format or paperback. So there you go. Thank you.
So toilet, that was like an advertisement. So toilet Train Your Dog.
Yes.
Okay.
Toilet Train Your Dog, and it's just it's a book that you can read inside of 2 hours. If you're having issues or you need some help toilet training your older dog, younger dog, dogs of all ages and all skill levels. You don't need to know anything about dogs or toilet training, and you can pick that book up and it can deliver for you. So
awesome. Free plug. How good's that? All right. Very good. So I touched on the positioning part a second ago. So, and positioning in the minds of your customers where there's the least amount of competition. So how do you think you position your business and your brand that is different to the competition?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing that I try and promote, and it's something that I really look for when I'm, looking for a service provider or anything to that nature, I really look for like someone that's genuine and someone that's authentic and transparent with, their credentials and their experience. Someone that's there and you can clearly see the passion in what they are putting out there and what they want to provide for people in terms of the service or their offering. I actually am in real life. I practice what I preach, and I have 5 dogs of my own, so it's worth me mentioning that. I'm not someone that doesn't have dogs, that works with dogs. I guess being authentic, being genuine, being there's a certain level of trust I like to build with people, because I'm quite a genuine, what you see is what you get type of person. So I feel like that's something that I continually, like I said, like to look for in people, but I also like to put out there that, that's me and this is me, and I'm what you see is what you get, like I said. So
And tell me, so all the marketing that you're doing,
yeah.
so you're starting to now put that into a bit of a plan as well, is that right?
Yeah, so I am working with one of the consultants inside of your business, and we're putting together
Yeah.
a plan for
Yeah.
me in terms of moving my business forward and emphasizing a few different parts of my business. So yeah, that's been an extremely great experience to sort of go through thus far. And yeah, like I said, it's sort of been another process of collecting my thoughts and really clarifying my purpose and motivation, the business's mission, and looking at different areas we can expand. I can expand the business as well. So yeah, it's been a great process, like I said, to collect my thoughts and work out really where do I want to go and how achievable are my goals, and a realistic way to join the dots to get there.
Yeah. I remember earlier in this convo, you spoke about time, and that's one of your biggest obstacles. And I would say that that is one of the biggest obstacles across the board for all small
Yeah.
businesses. And it's funny, I did because I'm doing a talk in a couple of days to a franchise group, to their franchisees, and I did some calculations, and if you spent 30 minutes a day on marketing, that's 2% of your day,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2% of your day on marketing. We sleep roughly around 33% of the day, right?
Yep.
So basically between sleep and marketing, that makes up 35% of your day. So you've still got 65% of your day to do everything else.
Yes.
And I think when I did that calculation this morning, I was like, oh my God, that's really not a lot of time to spend on marketing. But imagine you did that every day, and we're talking just 5 days a week, right?
Yeah.
So that's 2.5 hours a week on marketing. That's some significant time, and yet it's only 2% of your time, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's about having a plan, and we spoke about frequency before as well. So if you have a plan in place that allows for the frequency to happen, because you've got it there, nutted out, you know when stuff needs to be done, how often, how regular, and it allows you to implement that plan to then achieve those goals.
Yeah.
So
I think
I was
that's a really
rambling a
great.
bit there, but yeah.
No. I think that's a really great point, because it kind of tags back into what I do with clients in terms of training as well. It's really important. Consistency is such a large part of the picture when we're implementing anything. And a consistent approach, and just having that mindset of that I'm going to do a little bit, like make micro changes, like you said, in my day. And it may not be a massive thing, but it's all going to accumulate in terms of moving towards or progressing, or, like moving towards a goal. So yeah, I think you mentioned the consistency. I think that's such a big part of the picture with a lot of things that we do inside a small business as small business owners. Like we don't have a lot of time, but once you lay out like your plan and you say, I'm going to just do this much, like I said, that's all going to accumulate, and you're making little changes, little progressions every day. It's all going to add up. So it's important to have that mindset, though, that I don't know. I read something the other day, I think it was on social media, that was like, you don't see a change if you go to the gym just one day, but it accumulated over a 6-month period, you do see changes, so it's that kind of having that kind of mindset, being committed and being
Absolutely.
consistent.
100% frequency, consistency, and the impact of the compound effect, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So key. With all the bits and pieces of marketing that you've done, is there one activity that you think has worked well, or do you think they just all work well together? And that's what I think your answer will be, because that's what we see with our clients, that by doing all these touch points and activities. I was speaking to a client the other day, and he said, we love what we're doing because we're not just getting, like, we're getting inquiries from everywhere. Like it's referrals or word of mouth, or they're finding us on a Google or website, that sort of social media post, or like, and it's all kind of working. Do you feel that's the same with you guys, without putting words into your mouth?
Yeah, I think that, like, it's your audience, you've got different audiences in different places, and different things work for different people. So for instance, not everyone is going to be on an email listing, or not everyone's on social media, so due to their own personal choices. So really putting your feelers out in a couple of different directions, I feel is like pretty important in terms of reaching people and getting in front of people. And that's been beneficial for me, even in like a smaller business. But yeah, like I think there's been a lot of strength in like, obviously, you know, being on Google, getting stuff out there on social media, making sure you've got things to back, you know, the services that you offer. So, you know, client referrals, reviews, testimonials, all that sort of thing. But yeah, so like I said, I've kind of like put my toe in the water in terms of like mailing listings and things like that, and seeing how beneficial that has been. And yeah, like I said, touched on radio and a few different. So yeah, just having all these experiences and seeing what works and gives the most traffic back to people making contact with me has been, yeah, really cool. And yeah, I think kind of like, not that I'm saying it would be beneficial for everyone to do everything, but having a few different avenues to kind of touch on and work at, I think it is beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Very good. Do you see in your network, I'm assuming you probably kind of deal with some other business owners just in your day-to-day workings or friends, or do you see a characteristic or a few characteristics of the successful people that you deal with, like personal characteristics?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. So I guess it's like any service provider, what we look for in terms of our the best client we could ever get. And it's something I see with people. If I see someone that's just really consistent, I'll go back to the consistency, consistent with how they live their life, that are quite structured, that are really motivated to want to learn. That's a big one, and grow.
Yep.
Someone that has a bit more of an open mind, maybe in terms of grasping certain concepts, and maybe changing their mindset. And yeah, like they're probably the priority kind of points I'd look for. So there's not anyone specifically. It's just someone that really wants to change or create change, you know, with their dog predominantly, but, you know, also has the energy and time, to put into the process. Because yeah, I guess like with what I do, I really try and promote, it's not so much the destination, although the goal is important. The destination, it's more like the journey we're going to go on to get there, where you're really going to learn. And we need that, because without that, we can't get to the destination. We can't get there. If you don't have all those lessons and you haven't kind of learned, we have nothing to get there. Like, you know, so it's something I always try and explain to people, that you can't just get the answers. You kind of have to work at things, and there is a time aspect of you know, working with dogs, that and it takes a bit of patience sometimes. But yeah, so I think changing that mindset, and there's a bit of smoke and mirrors in the industry, that, you know, we can solve problems like magicians with a wand. It's not always the case, although there are exceptions. But yeah, so yeah, I think that that's been something that I promote a lot when I speak to clients and work with clients. And it really makes it so that those little micro changes or those little progressions and milestones become big celebrations, which kind of emphasizes and builds that motivation even more to keep going and to keep just wanting to do more. And sometimes we surpass the frustrations so quickly, the client has discovered they actually really enjoy that process. So, which is so beneficial lifelong for their dog and themselves.
Yeah. I think the two key things I got out of that was structure, in terms of having to structure in your life, in your business, in your family, in your finances, in just every part of your life. And the second one was willing to learn.
Yes.
And the willingness. And we say this all the time, that there is no better time to be in business, because there is so much information out there. It's not all good, but there's so much information out there to absorb and consider. So there's no better time. And I think that's why there's 2.5 small business owners in Australia, because the ease of information is there. Doesn't make everyone a great business owner, but it gives them the potential for success. So structure and willingness to learn. Love that. Is there a person in your life or in your career that you would want to thank to help you to get the where you've gotten to so far, I should say?
Yeah, there's probably one, my husband. whose name is
Legend.
Michael as well.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband and I have been married the better part of 10 years. And if there's one person that's supported me along the way in terms of realizing my goals inside a small business, it would be him. He is also a small business owner himself, so we kind of have our little lunchbox meetings a lot of the time.
That's so
but
cool.
yeah, so he's someone that's always, because there, it goes without saying, and especially since COVID, there's some low points we experience, and a lot of frustrations wearing all the hats as well. And being a small business owner, and I'm sure this is across the board with other people, we bring our work home a lot, so we make a lot of sacrifices off the clock, which a lot of our clients are not aware of. So yeah, I think that if there's one person that's kept me going when I feel a bit like throwing it in, it's definitely him. And since we've had our kids over the last 4 years, we've got 3 kids that they kind of, when I feel a bit defeated, they, I got to remember I'm setting an example for them. And I think that legacy is pretty important that they see that, even though they're quite young. I was raised in a family with my father ran his own business pretty much my whole life. So that had a definite impact on me in terms of how I view small business as well. And, having that realistic view of what you have to do sometimes. So yes, my husband and my kids are pretty important to me and keep me going sometimes.
So three kids, you said, 5 dogs, a husband, both run a business. So if I ever hear anyone say to me, I don't have time, I'm going to say, speak to Racheal.
So like time management's a huge thing in my life, and something I'm like always like continually trying to work at, because just to get better at. I think when you have a young family, and I have a 2-month-old baby at the moment, so that's even has a compounding effect on everything else in terms of work. So again, like it comes back to that being realistic, knowing that you've only got so much energy sometimes, and absolutely fine to sometimes switch gears and you've got to be kind to yourself, and sort of work on your own mental health sometimes. And if you can't help yourself, you can't help other people. It comes back to that cliche, I guess. So
absolutely. And so how do you, there's obviously juggling there, right? So how do you juggle? Does it come back to the structure bit that you were mentioning before? Like, how do you juggle all of that in your life?
Yeah, I take a deep breath as I kind of answer this question, because it can vary really depending on what's going on. But so I mean, this is probably similar to many other people. I juggle in a sense, like I have my priorities that are always the same. Yeah, so that's the basic structure I'll work within, whether it's family, pets, work. I make sure that I have like blocks of time I allocate to certain things, and that seems to work really well for me in terms of how my brain works, because like I said, I'm someone that starts a million projects, and I'm continually like, I've got a list, I've got ideas, and I can't get the ideas out quick enough. So coming back to my structure, I structure my week ahead of time. So making sure I diarize a lot of things and come back to ideas when it might not be the most appropriate time to be, working on something else. Just making sure that I guess, and that's something like as I've gotten older, I've kind of worked on too, that, having less time to allocate to work or like other projects I might have. I've had to be really structured just to maintain daily life. It's I mean, everyone else probably has a different process, but diarizing, writing things down, lists. I mean, there's a multitude of tools that I might use. Making sure every day I'm saying, what am I trying to achieve? What's realistic? And what am I going to do today to make progress? And just really, kind of, I don't know, making like an internal promise with myself that I'll get there, and what actually really needs to be achieved rather than what do I want to achieve.
That's
two different answers.
That's a great comment right there. Does your husband work from home as well, or he's offsite, or?
So he's a builder, so it's quite varied, the work he does as well. So he's a lot of the time he's on site, obviously, but he has the flexibility to work from home from time to time. And like, with me, there's a lot of work talking to clients, quotations and things that happen off the clock too. So yeah, it again, it's quite varied for him too.
Do you want to give his business a plug, or you don't want to?
Oh, well, he at the moment he's actually taken a role with the Department of Education. So he's kind of doing both sides, like working in his business and working in the week too. So awesome. His name is Michael Romeo and Michael Romeo Building. So that's his business.
Beautiful. Yeah, there you go.
Second the Riverina, so
yeah, okay. Second plug. There you go. Awesome. Any high moments or low moments that you want to share with the listeners in your business?
Yeah, I guess like a low moment that and I mean, we've touched on how like lonely and isolating small business can be at times when you kind of work on your own, or you have a smaller business where you're wearing all the hats. I guess like a low point I found was like when COVID happened, when we were really limited in terms of what we could do and how much face-to-face help we could give people. And where my business sat at that point when that all kind of unfolded. I just had my first child then too. So it was kind of a point where I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? Like, how do I, and many people in my industry were probably thinking the same too. Like, we're really limited with what we can get out and do. So what do we do? That was a bit of a low point, but like I said, having that more proactive approach rather than a reactive approach, where I kind of thought, oh, should I do something else or should I continue this? I kind of went back to like, what's my passion? What do I want to do? What do I want to deliver for people? I just was like, well, I just want to keep educating people, and I want to make that offering something more accessible for people. So it just allowed me, I guess, from a problem or maybe a bit of a hard point, it allowed me to go, how do I make myself more accessible for people? So there was something great that came out of that. So it went from a low point maybe to a high point.
Awesome.
In one go.
That's the mindset we want to hear right there. Love it. Anything, so if you look at the last 10 years, anything that you would go back and do differently? You can say no.
There's probably numerous things I'd go back and do differently. That's a really good question that I probably need to give more thought. There is one thing and this goes across the board. This isn't one specific time, but I wouldn't be so hard on myself. I wouldn't be so hard on myself in terms of feeling I had to reach a certain point by a certain time, or be able to work wonders with a client, or not deliver things at the perfect level I wanted to in the perfect way. I'd try and put a lot of time into just like having that chat with myself in the background, like, you're doing good, like you're doing well. So maybe like not being so hard on myself in general. I think that, when we feel the pressure and we feel like we're the one that's keeping the engine going, it can be really easy to switch into the mindset that, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I don't got a lot of time. There's a lot of negative talk, I guess. So being a bit more kinder to myself and saying like, you're at this point for a reason. You just got to go day by day and keep working towards, like we're talking about, that goal. Keep learning along the way and embracing the lessons. Because like I said, like I practice what I preach. It's the most important part is embracing what's coming your way, because you're never going to get to that kind of goal or that point you want. And kind of, even as a person, if we're so focused on, the end goal. The positive self-talk and not being so hard on myself, maybe.
Yeah, okay. And that might lead into the last question. Any kind of final thoughts or words of wisdom or tangible advice that you want to give the small business listeners out there?
Okay, so just keep going, like whatever point you're at. And I guess it just kind of touches back to what I just said. Just embrace every day the things that come at you. Sometimes doors close. but generally doors will open when that happens. It's just about your mindset and how you kind of view things. There's always opportunities out there. So when you're feeling defeated, really don't consider chucking in the towel. If you really want to do something and there is passion there, and there's that spark there for you, just continue to keep plodding along and, just really work hard with your mindset and how you're viewing the journey, what I keep referring to.
Yeah.
I think that is something that, like we we're talking about in small business, can be a lonely place. But, there's a lot of us out there that are in that same spot too. So don't forget that there are other people out there to network with, communicate with, and, get support when you need it too.
Perfect. That's a perfect way to end the podcast. Racheal, that was awesome. Thank you so much. So many learnings, so many bits and pieces for business owners to get out of today. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now, if you love this podcast, be sure to subscribe across YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, wherever you listen or watch on the podcast, and also share with other business owners if you felt like you got plenty out of today. Thanks for listening or watching.
Just a reminder, to get even more out of today's episode, go to the show notes to find the link or visit littlemarketing.com.au where you can download a worksheet with the key points discussed in today's episode. This is so that you can make your own notes around some of the things discussed, get your marketing moving, and start implementing. Again, thanks for listening and have a great day. Please note that all the information provided on this podcast is general in nature and is not intended to be specific advice to your individual situation. Please be sure to engage a professional for a customized approach to your business and personal circumstances.